I'm here to talk about video games. Now, when people think about video games, it's often as toys, distractions, or even as waste of time. But I'm here to tell you that video games can be the future for scientific discovery and for solving scientific problems that might otherwise go unsolved through a whole new genre of games called scientific discovery games. Games are really great because they engage the players in solving really hard problems. And what if we could put that effort towards solving problems in the real world rather than just, say, rescuing imaginary princesses? Well, then we could use games as the means to harness the power of people's minds together with raw computational power and put that towards trying to solve previously unsolvable problems. Now, one particular domain where games have started to show a lot of potential is in biochemistry, and in particular, proteins. So what are proteins, and why are they important? Well, proteins are like the workers in the factory of the cell, and everything from fighting against disease, to digestion, to muscle movement, to even thoughts and emotions depend on proteins in some way. And if we have a better understanding of them, that can help lead to things like new vaccines, environmentally friendly alternatives to plastic, and more efficient biofuels. So you can see why scientists would be very interested in better understanding proteins. But how do we go about better understanding proteins? Well, it turns out it's pretty difficult. When a scientist wants to understand a protein, what they're really looking for is the protein's shape, which it takes through a process called folding. But the problem is proteins are so small, it's impossible to determine their shape with something like a microscope. And because of that, hundreds of millions of dollars a year are spent on specialized equipment and procedures to try to determine protein shapes. Now, not only is this really expensive, but it's time-consuming, can take years, requires a lot of specialized training, and doesn't even necessarily always work. So it seems natural that scientists would turn to computers for help. Surely, with the vast amount of computation that we have available, we'd be able to solve this problem. So if you're familiar with the SETI at Home project, where you can download the screensaver to help search the stars for alien life, scientists turn to a similar model for searching for protein shapes with projects like Folding at Home and Rosetta at Home. Now, the way that Rosetta at Home approaches this problem is it takes some potential candidate protein shape, makes a random change to it, and then compares the old shape to the new shape to see which one is more likely to be the real shape of that protein. But the problem here is that even for the tiniest of proteins, the number of shapes that they can take is more than the number of stars in the known universe. So just as with SETI at Home, the number of shapes that a protein can take is just far too many for a computer to be able to search through. But the really interesting thing is that if you watch the screensaver, you can actually see the protein kind of flailing around as the computer tries to find the right shape. And you might actually say to yourself, hey, why is the computer doing this move? These two pieces of the protein should fit together. I think I could do better. And this is because proteins are a lot like 3D jigsaw puzzles. All the pieces of the protein need to fit together in just the right way for it to work. And in just the same way that a person can look at the missing piece of a jigsaw puzzle and instinctively know if the piece that they have in their hand is the right one, they can see how the protein shapes fit together in a way that computers just can't. And so we asked ourselves, what if we could let humans, people, actually get involved in the folding process, and rather than just watch, be directly participating and looking for these protein shapes? This inspired us to create the game Foldit at the Center for Game Science in collaboration with the Baker Biochemistry Laboratory at the University of Washington. Foldit is a game that's designed to take an entirely new approach to protein folding by motivating players to try to solve real-world biochemistry problems. When players are playing the game, they're trying to get a high score by folding their protein better than anyone else's. Now, the score is based on biological principles, so a better folded protein means a higher score, and it also means that protein is more likely to be the actual shape that protein takes in nature. The players are able to do direct manipulation of the protein shapes to do high-level rearrangements of the pieces, but they also have access to automatic moves so that the computer can do some of the refinement for them once they've got the pieces where they want them. And in this way, each of them gets to do what they're best at. The people get to use their spatial reasoning ability to do the high-level piece fitting of the protein, And the computer gets to do the low-level number crunching to try to refine that fit and come up with the best answer. So once we had the game, we wanted to see what would happen if we compared the players against the purely computational methods. How would they do? So we set up a test where we gave both the players in Foldit and the purely computational methods a set of proteins to try to fold up. And what we found was that, in specific cases, the players with Foldit are actually able to outperform the computer and come up with better answers. In the cases where the computer gets stuck, the players are able to persist with their intuition and their spatial reasoning to actually completely unravel the protein in some cases and find new and better and more accurate protein shapes, and actually come out ahead and do better than the computer. So encouraged by this, we wanted to try Foldit on a real-world biochemistry problem that was stumping scientists. The Mason-Pfizer monkey virus retroviral protease is a key protein in the virus that leads to AIDS in rhesus monkeys, and if solved, could lead to insights in the fight against AIDS in humans. Experimental biochemists had been working on solving the structure for over a decade, and the computational biochemists had just tried their latest state-of-the-art methods unsuccessfully. So we gave the structure, this protein, to the Foldit players for 3 weeks, and when they were done, we took the results of their gameplay and gave this data to the scientists for analysis. And when we saw that a group of video game players from around the world had come together to effectively solve a biochemistry problem that had been stumping scientists for years, you can imagine all of our excitement. The players had solved it. But we're not stopping there. The whole game is itself designed as an experiment that's carried out between the players, the scientists, and the game designers. And so we're continually releasing updates and expansions to the game. So if you played it now, you'd find that it's actually quite different from the game a year ago. And as we add things like new visualizations, new tools, and new elements of fun to the game, we're able to observe what kinds of effects they have on everything from the scientific results that are produced by the gameplay, to how long players are willing to play for, to how quickly they progress through the game. And in this way, the game is changing over time to become a more effective problem-solving tool, even as the players themselves are becoming better problem solvers. So we wanted to actually give the players the ability to improve the game themselves. And we've done this by allowing them to actually teach their protein folding strategies directly to the game. And it's not just the individual players, but we're actually allowing the players to, once they've taught their strategy to the computer, share their strategy online with the other players, who can then comment on it, rate it, run it, and even edit it to make their own variations. And the players have really taken to this, and we've seen that they've generated thousands and thousands of strategies that they've been able to teach the computer. And the most popular strategies are good strategies because they're leveraging the social environment of the players' collective intelligence to sort of find the best strategies out of all of these thousands and thousands that are available. And when we looked at some of the best and most popular strategies, we were really astonished to find that the players are independently making the same kinds of discoveries of strategic moves that the scientists are, and in fact, in some cases, are able to find moves that are even more efficient than the scientists' moves. So at this point, we've seen that the players are able to help scientists understand protein shapes, but we wanted to know if players could go beyond just understanding the shapes of proteins that already exist in nature, in the world, and actually design and come up with new protein shapes that have never before been seen. And if they can do this, we can actually take those new designed proteins out of the game and bring them into the reality by making them in the lab. And we've actually already started to do this. So if a Foldit player is able to come up with a new protein that, say, fights against the flu, that creates a biodegradable plastic, or that can store energy more efficiently than we know how to now, we can actually take that protein out of the game and bring it into reality. So what we're seeing here is the bridging of the gap between video game players and the scientific laboratory, where the game players are actually able to direct the kinds of experiments that will be carried out by scientists. So Foldit itself has been focused on biochemistry, but let's not stop there. How can you use games to help solve difficult scientific problems? Well, when looking for problems that might make a good game, I think there are sort of 3 high-level criteria that are very good to consider. First, I'd look for problems that are computationally unsolvable, where adding more computation to the problem won't help solve it. Because if that were the case, then we wouldn't really need the players to contribute to it. We could add more computers. But it's really good if the problem's solutions can be quickly verified or validated by the computer, because this will let you give real-time, immediate feedback to the players, which is important for a game. In the case of Foldit, the scoring of the proteins is actually very quick, so the players can immediately know how well they're doing. Second, look for problems that leverage some kind of human ability. So the players have something that they can do that complements and augments the raw computational power, and hopefully something that they'll have fun doing as well. In Foldit's case, this is the spatial reasoning that people have to help fit the pieces of the protein together. And third, I'd look for problems that have some kind of purpose, because players will be interested in contributing time to playing the game if they know that it will have some kind of positive impact. We found that the Foldit players are motivated by a lot of the game mechanics, such as competition and collaboration that we've added, but a lot of them are also motivated by knowing that what they're doing is contributing to science. And I think there are a lot of really interesting and challenging problems that fit these criteria. Everything from chip and circuit layout to the design of nanodevices, software verification, and drug discovery all have the potential to make really interesting and exciting games. So I think it's time to stop looking at games as toys or distractions, but actually as a powerful new perspective on scientific problem solving. And let's harness the power of gamers to change the world for the better and push the frontier of scientific discovery. Thank you.